It's a great joy to be bringing our Shabbat message from home soil, from our spiritual home, our Great Park Synagogue. So this Shabbat, the reading is quite famous because many of the details that we read about tomorrow are reenacted and relived at one of the great institutions of our Jewish calendar year, the first night of Pesach at the Seder. It's then that we recount the dismantling of the empire, the evil empire of Egypt, the arrogance of Pharaoh, and the emergence of our people as a free nation, the exodus, the emancipation of Am Yisrael, the embrace of Hashem as the all-powerful God of the world. And it is this Shabbat that we speak about the last three plagues that are grouped together in this week's portion and therefore imply that there's some kind of connection between them, specifically these last three plagues. And perhaps we can look at them with the eyes that enable us to see its relevance to our lives even today. The eighth plague was the plague of locusts that descended on Egypt. The ninth plague was the plague of darkness, and the 10th plague was the destruction of the firstborn of Egypt. And these represent greed, inability to see the needs of others, and eventually violence that envelops the world as a result. So greed is represented by the locusts that descend as a cloud. They think nothing about tomorrow, about the needs of others. They are simply intent of devouring everything in their path. They come as a powerful group that leave nothing left over in their path of destruction. It's all about me. It's all about self-indulgence. When we talk about the power of Egypt and the indulgence of individuals who enslave others for their own benefit, so we highlight the evil effects of greed that simply take everything from the world without thinking of the needs of others. And that results in darkness. And there is none so blind as those who choose not to see. The darkness that is described was not just a visual darkness, it became a darkness that was thick, that enveloped the person to the extent that we were unable to move as a result of the darkness. And as the Chidushei Arim, one of the great commentaries, Hasidic commentaries, explains, that when one is not able to see the needs of others, when we are blind and in darkness because we no longer look at what other people around us need, the result of that is an inability to grow and to develop in our own right. Our lives become dismantled when we cannot see the needs of others. And the result of that broad greed represented by the locusts, and then the darkness, which doesn't allow us to see the needs of others, and therefore inhibits our own, impedes our own growth, results finally in the self-implosion of violence, of death, that descends through terrorism, through war, through all of the net results of the greed of a human being and our inability to see one another. These are the last three stages of the dismantling of Egypt and the emergence of our people Israel. And this is the storyline of our emancipation, of our freedom, and our focus on wanting to emerge from all that the evil Egypt represented in this world. And it is this week that we commemorate the date of Yud Shvat, which is the date that the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe passed on from this world. And the sun sets and the sun rises, and the leadership of the Rebbe, who took over from the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, also began on this day of the 10th of Shvat. And both of these very powerful leaders began a journey at a time just after the Holocaust where there was so much lost hope, there was a feeling of despondency, there was so much destruction around Am Yisrael and around the world. And there was a vision to rebuild and to develop and to think of the needs of everybody across the entire world. The shlichut, the mission of being able to reach out to every corner of the world and to build beacons of light, to teach and to share the words of the Torah everywhere in the world, has only become more and more apparent as decade by decade has unfolded. This is the mission that the Rebbes, that these great leaders gave to us in the world, to recognize that it's not about me, it's not only about my family, it's about how much we can impact on the world around us and bring light and bring positive energy to everyone in the world around us. So may we think about these important events that are unfolding this week and the messages that they have for our lives. May we think of Geula, of redemption. May this be a week in which we redeem ourselves and extricate ourselves from so many of the debilitating elements of the world in which we live. Let us think as free individuals, as emerge as free individuals. Let us emerge with positivity and hope. Have a beautiful Shabbos.